Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for watching this video today. On today's video, we are going to be focusing and working on the Datsun 280ZX. Now, for some of you guys, this has been a long overdue video. I keep updating you guys how the Datsun is doing, and we're going to be working on it one day. But today is that day. Now, as some of you guys know, most of the new guys here, they know about my 8th Gen Civic Si. That is my daily / project car. But this right here, this is the project car. To go a little bit more in detail for some of you guys that are new here, this is my 1981 Datsun 280ZX 2+2 GL non-turbo version. So this 2x2 just means extra 2 seats in the back because most Z's nowadays are only 2-seaters only. But in this case, you guys, this is my Datsun. I had this for over 10-20 years possibly. This has been in my family for quite a long time now. So now it is passed down onto me, and the absolute goal for this Datsun is to get it completely restored and definitely have a bunch of heavy mods in the near future. So it does need a little bit of love and a little bit some time and work. There's webs coming up on the headlights, there's a bunch of body damage and a lot of rust damage as well. I did have fender mirrors at one point, but it looks like one of them broke on my driver's side and my driver's side fender was damaged, so I ended up replacing the whole thing. But we're actually going to see if we can try to get some new fender mirrors installed today, as well as new fuel injectors. So before we go ahead and get into the Datsun, be sure to give this video a like and consider subscribing to see more Datsun and Civic content. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, before we actually start working on the Datsun, I want to go over a couple things. So I haven't actually driven this on the street just because I have a nasty backfire, and there's definitely some tuning and issues going on with the vehicle, how it is running. So hopefully by replacing those fuel injectors today, it might help out a little bit, just because nothing has been done on the engine whatsoever, especially the fuel injectors. So hopefully that's going to be a +1 once we get that installed. But we're going to go ahead, take out all the stuff on the inside just because it's been piling up with junk over the years, and that way we can go ahead and move forward. So let's go ahead and start cleaning it up. Alright guys, so Datsun 280ZX interior is clean. Obviously for the outside, I can't really do much just because the body is in pretty rough shape. So as you guys see, the window cowl is completely shot with rust. So even if I do wash it, it's not going to fix that issue. But as you guys can see, we got most of the interior all cleaned out to where it's actually decent to drive around. But in this case, I won't be able to drive it until we fix that fueling issues. So for now, what we're going to do first, I'm actually going to get my battery and get that freshly recharged, so that way we have full voltage on my 12-volt battery. Let me actually go ahead and pop this open for you guys. So for most older cars, you guys, if you guys can relate, OEM parts and OEM plus parts are hard to come by. So for my battery, I actually have a larger one, so it's definitely add a lot more weight to the engine bay, but it does work great. Now the thing is, I haven't drove this car for a while now, mostly almost a couple of months, but we're gonna go ahead, take my battery, drop it off at AutoZone with the Civic Si, get that recharged, and stop by Harbor Freight because your boy's ratchet actually broke. So we're gonna go ahead and pick up a new one, and also a drill bit for these fender mirrors, so that way we can open up the hole on the fenders, so that way the fender mirrors can fit properly. But let's go ahead and take the battery out and head to AutoZone or Harbor Freight. Alright guys, so we are back from our little trip to AutoZone and from Harbor Freight. So we have dropped off the battery to get recharged while we were working on the Datsun. So we picked up a few things. We got a new drill bit, so that way we can put the new fender mirrors in, and also a 3/8 extendable ratchet. So I have one of these. They just broke on me because the extendable ratchet wouldn't work. So we got a brand new one. So game plan is for the Datsun 280ZX. So first thing we're going to do is jack up the car. we're gonna go ahead and change out the oil because it's been a long time since we changed the oil. Now, even if I don't drive it as much, it's still very important to don't let oil sit in your engine just because it gets really thick and bad and it's not good for your engine. So we've got new oil and new oil filter to get that replaced. Then we can go ahead and start installing the fuel injectors and lastly the fender mirrors. So let's get this car jacked up. Alright guys, I got my Datsun jacked up in air. We're going to go ahead and proceed with changing out the oil. So I'm going with Valvoline. This motor takes 10W30. It doesn't exactly say, however, on the motor itself, just because for Datsuns, all the parts and all the different fluids you have to put in them are very specific. So pretty much I have a power steering line that is leaking, and it's not easy just to search it up on Google and everything. So there'll just be multiple of power steering lines that fit this car, but obviously I have to find the right one that fits this specific trim and model. But in this case, I went ahead and talked with a few owners. They do recommend 10W30. I definitely like the brand Valvoline. They're a very reliable source. I highly recommend getting Valvoline brand or switch up your type of oil change every time you change out your oil. But that being said, guys, we're gonna go underneath the engine, drain out the oil, and the oil filter is actually pretty simple to access. It's actually gonna be right behind over here on the side of the engine. I know it's hard to see, but I'll see if I can try to get some footage for you guys once I'm underneath the car. But let's go and get started. Good. Alright guys, holy crap. So I don't know if you guys were able to see that in the GoPro footage, but when I was changing out the oil, I swear I was not expecting it to come out that fast. So I honestly don't know how many quarts is required for this engine. I was gonna search it up when I filled it up, but it definitely felt like more than 5 quarts in there, just because like as soon as I took out the drain plug, the oil immediately just came out right away and it overflowed my drain pan, so it was just spilling everywhere. So I had to put the GoPro down before it got covered in oil, but luckily it is draining completely now, so we're gonna let it sit until all the bad oil is out and then we can move on to the oil filter. Alright guys, so we are actually going to move on to installing the Datsun's fender mirrors, just because in order for me to install the fender mirrors, I actually have to have the car on jack stands. So we're going to go ahead and leave the car up here and move on to the fender mirrors. So as the old fender mirrors that I have on my car originally, they are some cheap eBay Motors fender mirrors. They're not really meant for the Datsun or the style for the Datsun, so I went ahead and got something a little bit better. These are the Datsun 280ZX JDM style fender mirrors that we're going to be putting on today. Funny thing is, when I got into the car seeing you guys, I didn't have no clue about Datsuns too much. So when I installed those fender mirrors, I immediately thought, I'm like, oh, these look awesome. Like, I didn't really think about the measurements, but I will go ahead and explain it to you guys once we install these new fender mirrors. So these are the new ones that we're going to be putting on. Pretty much a pretty simple setup, just one bolt that's going to be screwed to the bottom, so we're going to go ahead and insert that. Other than that, you guys, let's go ahead and move on to the fender so we can install these guys. Alright guys, so these are my old fender mirrors. So pretty much the issue that's wrong with it that I did mention you guys, for some reason I didn't know any better, so I decided to put the fender mirrors right in the very middle on the top. So this is actually really bad. It may look okay, but the point is, you guys, the fender mirrors are supposed to be on the edge of the car, so that way you can see your blind spot when you're driving. Another thing too, you guys, why we're going to be replacing it, it's just this ball joint or whatever this thing is no longer good, so I can't even drive without no mirrors on the car. So we're going to be fixing that today. Unfortunately, when I do take this off, there's going to be a big hole that's going to be sitting in the fenders, so I'm not going to worry about that today. We will bonder that hole eventually later down the line. So what we're going to do is take off both of the front wheels, find the bolt underneath that fender mirror, and afterwards we can go and take off everything, make our measurements, and drill the fender. So let's get started. Alright, you guys, fender mirror is off, so unfortunately we're gonna have a hole that's just gonna be left there in the process. So what we're gonna be doing next is doing our measurements to see where the fender mirror is gonna go exactly. Then we can go ahead and finally install it. Now that hole won't be there forever. I'm definitely gonna patch that up. I just don't have any Bondo on me right now, so that's gonna be for another time. So let's go ahead and make our measurements so we can start drilling. Alright guys, so this is just a mock taste of how it's gonna look like with the fender mirror installed. So I got to the point where I pretty much like it. So the goal is for these fender mirrors to make sure it sticks at near the very edge, but also leave a gapping space in between. But so far I think it looks a little bit better. I'm gonna go check on the back, see if I see myself. So yeah, as you guys can see, able to see myself in the mirror just a little bit. It's a little out of focus, but you guys can definitely see me, so that's definitely a good one. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to go ahead and put some thread locker at the end bolt. Now if you guys saw, there's actually, see if I can try to move this for you guys. Oh, looks like I can't, but pretty much there is another point where we have to screw in something right here. I'm actually going to wait on that just for now, just because I want to rivet these guys so that way it doesn't shake off or it doesn't have any high vibration when we start driving this thing. So I will definitely need to get some hardware for that, so that's gonna have to wait. But for now, I'm pretty happy to how it looks. I'm gonna go on the other side and drill it, and that way we can get both of these guys on so that I can finally see when I'm driving on the road. Alright guys, so unfortunately my GoPro died when I was doing the driver's side, so I couldn't really put my camera out on the street, but we got both of the new fender mirrors on, you guys. Honestly, it definitely kind of looks a little goofy, I'm not gonna lie. That's because for these JDM style mirrors, they're a little bit smaller, and they're meant for the 240s and 280Zs. Now for the ZXs, they're a little bit bigger than these guys, so like that's probably why, but I'm sure once it's on the ground it'll look a little bit better, just because my Datsun is lowered on coilovers from Techno Toy Tuning. But as you guys can see, I got it pretty lined up to where I'm pretty happy, to where I'm pretty comfortable that I can see out of those mirrors, but we won't know until we actually get the car on the ground. So now we're going to be moving on to the fuel injectors and replacing all 6, so that way hopefully this car runs a little bit better. So that being said, you guys, we're going to go ahead and open the hood, start disassembling the fuel injector rail. I really hope I don't have to take a bunch of parts off, just because it's a little bit of a pain to work on these engines. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so after lowering the car definitely looks a lot better with those fender mirrors, so I'm really glad it made a good look on it. It's a very sleek design, and I'm glad it's not something that's like sticking out like crazy, and it's not super ambitious or rambunctious. So you guys, now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the fuel injectors. So pretty much what we're gonna be doing is, the goal is not to take off as many parts as possible, hoping just giving myself a little bit of space to work with, so that way I can just take out each injector individually with a little bit of space. But as you guys can see, this is my fuel rail system. It's mostly this component right here, and the fuel injectors are right behind. By doing a quick observation on it, it only looks like it's just a couple of bolts that's holding in the bracket, and I could just pop out most of the fuel injectors. I don't think I have to do anything super crazy. I have a lot of time on daylight too, which is really nice, so I definitely want to get that done before nighttime arrives, so let's go in and get started. Alright guys, so now we're going to be moving on to switching over to the new fuel injectors I bought. So I got this from the Z store online. They sell OEM or OEM Plus factory parts for the Datsun 280ZX. So pretty much just a normal fuel injector. It's just a little bit of an upgrade. So we have got rubber gaskets and the clamp here, and we also got the fuel injector right here. So it's pretty standard. Like, I'm hoping that it fits. I obviously have to check the connectors and also maybe do some adjustment on the hoses just because they're a little bit long. But let me go ahead and open this up for you guys. So these are the new injectors. I already come with a pre-clamped already to the injector, so we don't have to do anything with that. It does have a square fitting on the inside. Now I have heard on the inside of these injectors from the OEM ones, they're a little bit different. Once we get off the old injectors, I'll show you guys. For the clamp here, we might have to do a little adjustment or cutting just because it's a little bit long. And another thing is too, that's really cool about this kit, it also comes with the rubber gasket that goes inside the little hole for the injectors. Now these are really important because if you do not have these and you decided to put the injector in, it's definitely going to cause some leak of gasoline, and obviously you guys definitely do not want that, because if there's a spark in this case and there's a gas leak, it could catch on fire, and I'm pretty sure you guys don't want to see your project build catch into flames. So we got everything that we need for this kit here. I have all 6 injectors, so we're going to go ahead and start taking this apart. Hopefully a pretty simple process. Really cross my fingers here. Alright guys, so just a quick update for you guys or what's going on. So as you guys saw, I got the fuel rail loose. It's enough where I can take out each injector and replace them. So just a quick comparison, you guys. So this is the new Z car store depot, and these are the ones that currently are on my vehicle. So pretty much what you're going to be doing is when you're swapping out new injectors, you want to swap out these plastic housings and this metal washer over to this injector. And another thing too, I did spot the nozzles at the very tip is a little bit extended, and these ones are a little bit shorter, so I'm a little bit worried they're not going to fit, but we're going to go ahead and test it out, see how it fits, and if all goes well, we'll go in and replace all 6. Alright guys, so here is the new injector. So I got the new gasket and the old mounting plate on. Now we have to put this little gasket at the very tip of here. So I would honestly put some lubrication on the outside, such as like fuel. It should be fine, just so it can slide in easily so there's no pinching. And then that, once we go in and get it test fitted and installed, everything should be good. And then we can go on to the other fuel injectors. Alright guys, we are back. So unfortunately I had to cut the video the other night just because night tech came sooner than I thought. So pretty much what happened, I actually didn't record it just because it got super dark and I was trying to wrap things up. So replaced all the fuel injectors on the fuel rail. We also compared it with the olden fuel injectors just because it does look a little bit off. I will go over that in just a sec. We have got the recharge battery as well, so hoping to get this done by today and possibly go for a test drive. But that being said, let's jump back into it. Alright guys, so these are my new fuel injectors installed onto the fuel rail. So biggest difference is they look brand new. Obviously the fuel rail definitely needs some love and care. I actually do need to replace one of these lines right here just because it's super corroded on there, and I don't think it's not going to be good anymore. So fortunately I don't think I have another hose right here, so I'm going to have to wait for another time to replace that. But in this case, you guys, I did want to go over about the old fuel injectors, which is right here. So only difference is it doesn't have the housing piece that is needed to go onto the Datsun 280ZX. But the biggest thing that I noticed right away is this nose part of the fuel injector. So when I went ahead and compared it with the new one, the nose is actually shorter. So I'm really worried about it's not going to work properly. So I definitely hope these are plug and play. I read the description and everything. It does fit my certain vehicle, and it said it's a nice, or if you're looking for an upgrade, these are the way to go to upgrade to these fuel injectors. It should be plug and play, so hoping no fuel leaks whatsoever. They fit just fine too. I test fitted one of the injectors to make sure it goes into one of the cylinder holes. So far it fits. Again, I just don't know if this extended neck is very important to have for these fuel injectors. So another thing too I noticed off the bat, the fitting inside, it's actually a circular piece, and for these guys they're actually a square piece on the inside of the tip. So I don't know if that tip will make a difference. I don't know if it'll shoot more into the cylinder, but I'm really worried about if there's going to be any fuel leaks whatsoever. But we're going to go ahead and get this installed, you guys. Try to crank it over, see if it might turn over. Fingers crossed, no leaks, because we definitely do not want to have a spark and a fire occur. Alright guys, quick update on the fuel injector. So I'm trying to mount it to the car. Unfortunately, I believe there's too much of the hose for the fuel injector, so I'm gonna have to cut it down just a little bit just so I can get the bracket and all the hoses back in. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip this part and not film it just because it is a timely process. So I will meet you guys back when we cut the new hoses for the injectors, and afterwards we'll reinstall it. Alright guys, so I had to put the GoPro down just because this is a real back sore. So currently I just have the vehicle just not on jack stands, just sitting on its own wheels, but it's a wide engine bay, so pretty much half of my body is just like over the engine bay just like this. So it definitely is a lower back pain issue. So now we got the whole fuel injector installed. I already tightened everything down. I don't know the torque specs for these, but I impacted down with the impact drill, so pretty confident it's gonna stay. Now the only thing left to do is connect all the lines, connect all the hoses, and hopefully everything is well, no leaks whatsoever. Oh, and we also got to tighten down each of the fuel injector clamps that's connected to the fuel rail, so let's go ahead and do that. Alright you guys, everything is secured properly most of the part. There's some bolts that are still missing, but I'm going to wait till I actually tighten them down just because I want to double check if I have to go back in there and do anything else. Just because you want to make sure there's no leaks or nothing unplugged or nothing loose whatsoever. I'm pretty confident I got everything. There is one thing I just cannot remember. This little guy right here, I have no idea if there was anything connected to it. And I looked over the engine bay, I did not find a single trace. I don't know if it was like that the last time this car got the whole intake manifold removed off. But for now, you guys, we're going to go ahead and connect the battery. Hopefully nothing happens bad. Really cross my fingers nothing catches on fire, because that is definitely dangerous because we are messing with fuel here. But in this case, I'm pretty confident, so let's go ahead and connect the battery and try to turn over the engine. Alright guys, so I went ahead and tried to diagnose to figure out if there's any leaks going on. So far I'm hearing this really uncomfortable hissing noise. It sounds like it's leaking, like it sounds like there's air coming out of the system somewhere. I tightened everything down just in case, but I'm still hearing it. We're just going to go ahead and give it a test drive. Or I'm sorry, we're going to go ahead and start it up, see if we actually see any visible fuel leaking. And then if there is, we can go ahead and tighten it up. But fingers crossed, let's go ahead and do it. Alright guys, so far so good. I'm still hearing that hissing noise. I seriously have no idea what's going on. Like, it still makes me super concerned. Oh, you know what? I think I found it. Okay, so it looks like we're gonna have to plug this little hole up right here. Not too sure what exactly this does, but we can probably plug that up or something, but I have no idea what to plug it up with. Let me go see if I can find something. But you guys, it started up. It finally started up. It definitely had to build some pressure in. It cranked over a little bit, but once we got the fuel all the lines, it started up, and then it did almost die at first, but it caught itself right back up. This is really big, you guys. This is really cool. Alright guys, so I found this little vacuum plug that I used to use on Datsun, but it is a different size, so it's probably not going to fit. So yeah, there's so much room, but I'm just going to go ahead and put it on for now because that's the only thing I have, so we can go on a quick test drive just to make sure everything is good and nothing's going to be leaking. So let me go ahead and tighten that up really quick, and I'm also going to fill up the tires because keep in mind, you guys, like, I haven't drove this in a long time, so the tires are super old. They're like 12 years ago that these tires have been made. So eventually, once we get this thing back on the road, we're gonna put some new Yokohama tires on here. Nothing super crazy, just because I don't have anything performance-wise set up yet. It's just to make sure I can get to point A to point B. But let's go ahead and air it up and put that cap on. Alright guys, tires are all filled up. I just put them to 30 pounds just because I don't want to drain my battery because I didn't have the car on. That's because I didn't want my car to overheat, because if it did turn on, like, the radiator and the cooling is shot, but like there's coolant in there to get me by. But for now, you guys, Datsun's all put back all together. It's got new oil. I bleed the brakes. I also obviously change out the fuel injectors, and I also topped it off to 30 pounds so that way we can go on a test drive. But the biggest question is, will she turn on a second time with no issues? Let's find out. So the only goal is right now just to go around the neighborhood really quick, just because it's not ready for street driving. So we definitely do have a lot of work to do, but let's see if it starts a second time. I'm actually gonna put you guys out here, see how it goes. So I'm just building pressure again. Fingers crossed. Start it right up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it heat up just for a little bit, just because I want to make sure the engine is nice and warm before we actually start putting it through abuse. But so far, one thing that I did notice, you guys, when I let the engine run the very first time, it started to heat up a lot quicker. Now, before I changed out the fuel injectors, it took a long time for the Datsun to heat up, but I have a feeling there's definitely multiple of the injectors that were not working. I wish I had a tester for you guys, or I wish I could have taken you guys to go get it tested. Unfortunately, I just didn't have the time just because I needed to get this done. But so far, it's a +1. I do have the old injectors, but maybe we might do it in the future. But let's go ahead and let this guy warm up. Alright guys, so not even like 3 minutes and it's already climbing in temperature. So we're gonna go ahead and go for a test drive. I'm gonna match you guys up to the GoPro and see how it does. Fingers crossed still, just because we don't know how it's gonna happen. So I'm just gonna go down the street really quick, and if everything's okay, I'll do a lap around the neighborhood. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, guys, wow. The car feels almost brand new. Like, there seems to be no issue at all running or idling anymore. Like, it's almost like it's a whole new car. Like, it performs so well in the neighborhood. And I was pretty confident enough after I did a quick inspection to go in the to go outside the neighborhood. It handled pretty good, but I did see the temps were starting to rise up, so it was a little bit concerning. So I went and brought it back to the neighborhood. But wow, you guys, can't believe those injectors made the biggest difference. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do. The cooling is next, you guys. That's probably my main concern, because if I do take this on the road, I want to make sure I don't overheat, especially. Now, I'm not trying to take this to any long distance driving, only for like short trips, so that way we can prolong the life of this car. But you guys, the Datsun's back, and she's better than ever. I'm really happy to actually work on this. Don't get me wrong, guys, this was a pain to work on, like, but the hard work definitely did pay off. Like, obviously seeing the Datsun be able to move again, definitely broke some necks when I was driving by, just because like there's rarely any of these cars anymore in the world, especially where I live. So seeing one that's in mint condition is really rare to come by. I'm not saying this is mint, but it definitely needs some work, but it is drivable and it's still here, you guys. Definitely got a lot of work to catch up. Alright guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here, just because there's not too much to do anymore. We definitely went through all the stuff that I wanted to take care of on the Datsun this week, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more Datsun content. I do have a couple parts still sitting in my room for the past 2 years now, so they definitely need to be done, but don't worry you guys, I won't keep you guys waiting for too long, because we are working on the Datsun this year, I promise you. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give this video a like and consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.